All right, pull up your chair a little closer to the fire for this one. This is a fireside tale about you and your brain. It is the first of at least 2 campfire chats about this topic because understanding and consciously managing that gelatinous sponge between your ears is the best thing a man can do for himself, his family, his church, God, his country, and the rest of the world. And, ironically enough, it's one area that we habitually overlook, explain away, or end up condemning ourselves over. And in order to talk about your brain, we're going to take an imaginary trip to a faraway place, Alaska, 1898. It's the Alaska Gold Rush. News of gold in the Klondike is sending tens of thousands of folks from Washington and California rushing into the cold north like hungry chickens swarming a bucket of table scraps. Among them were 4 grown siblings, the frozen Nugget Gang. In life, these folks had been around the block a few times, learned a few tricks, made a few bucks, and made enough enemies to make them pack their bags and head to the literal end of the earth. Here, God willing, there was gold to be found and a new beginning. And, interestingly enough, you're along for the ride. Don't ask me dumb questions about why you'd be tagging along with these bozos. You just are. If you weren't, you wouldn't be as emotionally invested in the story, and it wouldn't be realistic. Because the fact is, we've all got our own set of these clowns running the show, whether we like it or not. And just like kicking and screaming will not fix your car, complaining and whining about this arrangement will not get these clowns to put down the unicycles and rubber chickens. So best get your parka, your rifle, and your gold pan and gear, because you and I are going prospecting. And if we do this right, we might just end up fat and rich. This is the Hillbilly Philosopher podcast, where we talk about self-improvement and mindset for traditional men of faith and vision who have figured out that Sunday's sermon doesn't always fix Monday's problem. I'm Reuben, husband, father of 7, carpenter, cartoonist, outhouse philosopher, and fireside storyteller who's itching to get back to this tale of danger, damnation, newspaper gossip, and practical neuroscience. Now, the oldest sibling of the frozen Nugget Gang was Screamin' Maggie. Everybody listened to Maggie, not because she was always right, she wasn't, but because she'd been yelling so long and loud that everyone just kind of accepted that as her God-given role. When Maggie yelled, stuff started happening. She was the first one up in the morning, the last one to sleep, and the first to spot danger, whether it existed or not. Maggie had a gift. She could smell trouble like a bloodhound smells fear. Her motto was, if I don't stay alert, somebody dies. Problem was, she smelled danger even when it wasn't there. Every snapped twig, every shadow, every delay. This ain't right, Maggie would holler, hand already on her rifle. Now here's the thing. Maggie's loud and boisterous ways had been the salvation of the family more than once. They needed Maggie, and when Maggie tugged the leash, the rest of the pooch got its rear in gear quick. We all have a little screaming Maggie riding around in our noggin. The lab coat brigade has dubbed this almond-shaped tyke the amygdala. The amygdala is the brain's early warning system. It's fast, emotional, and doesn't care about being polite. A neuroscientist named Joseph Ledoux, should have checked the pronunciation on that first, because I don't know how to say that. So we're calling this guy Joseph Ledoux. And if that's not right, well then, we'll fix it later. A neuroscientist named Joseph Ledoux showed that the amygdala can trigger a fear response before the thinking part of your brain even knows what's going on. This is why you jump out of the way before you can even process what's falling off the roof, snap at your wife without even meaning to, feel anxiety without even knowing why. That amygdala is like Screamin' Maggie on night watch, looking hard at every object in sight and cocking an ear for every snap of a twig and asking, is this dangerous? She ain't asking, is this situation just? Is this decision logical? Is this conclusion spiritually mature? She's asking, is this safe? And if she decides it ain't safe, she sure knows how to rouse the troops and keep people alive, even if being alive means being miserable. The next sibling down was White Knuckle Wally. He was built like a stump. Rumor had it he'd once won $5 at a country fair for beating a gorilla at arm wrestling. He was the family's muscle. He didn't say much. In fact, he couldn't talk. But when he moved, everyone else moved too. White Knuckle was Screamin' Maggie's favorite sibling because he didn't ask questions. He didn't care why. He cared about now. Was it dangerous cold? He'd make you spend the afternoon collecting firewood and the rest of the night doing jumping jacks by the fire until daybreak. Food low? He'd make his bed on the rations and kick you if you got too close. Maggie yelling? He braced for impact and he made sure that everyone else realized that this is not a drill. With White Knuckle, nothing was a drill, ever. Life was serious and dangerous. If Maggie was the alarm, White Knuckle was the response. Heart rate up, fists clenched so tight the knuckles turned white. No nonsense. Scientists call White Knuckle the brainstem and the autonomic nervous system. These puppies are always on, they are automatic, they are brutally fast, and non-verbal. This is the machinery that controls your heart rate, your breathing, your blood pressure, your gut activity, your muscle tension and muscle tone, and your fight, flight, freeze instincts. It runs underneath your thoughts, pulling strings to change your internal climate and deeply coloring the quality and contents of your thoughts. The brainstem and autonomic nervous system are also viciously fast. By the time you are capable of even forming a sentence, these guys have busted in the windows and lit the place up. The brainstem and autonomic nervous system are 10 to 100 times faster than your ability to think deliberately or verbally. White Knuckle Wally, the brainstem/autonomic nervous system, is a good servant, but he's more of a slave driver than anything else when he's in the captain's chair. Sibling number 3 was Eli the historian. He was a quiet one, which meant that you had to keep a close eye on him. Eli wrote things down. Claims, routes, weather, people, who crossed them, who helped them, where things went bad, where they went worse. Eli didn't argue. He didn't panic. He didn't shout. He just recorded. And every once in a while, he'd say something like, "Last time it felt like this." And then he'd tell a little story about something that had occurred in the past. And when he spoke, everyone listened like he was speaking gospel truth. For the Frozen Nugget Gang, Eli wasn't recording opinions. He was recording patterns and truths about how the world works. Historian Eli is your hippocampus. The hippocampus organizes your life experiences into structured episodes that record what happened, where it happened, when it happened, and the order of events. It doesn't store raw facts like a filing cabinet. The hippocampus stores episodic patterns. According to neuroscientist Bruce Perry, your brain is a machine built to look for patterns that will allow it to predict what will happen in the future. The hippocampus plays the role of record keeper and remembers, when things go like this, expect that. When people act like this, prepare for that. This is how you learn what that little rattle in your engine usually means. This is how you know when someone isn't on the up and up. This is how you know when a conversation with your wife has just turned deadly. Eli the historian wasn't an emotional fella himself, but he sure remembered what everyone else, especially Screamin' Maggie, was all worked up about. Some of his records looked less like a history book and more like afternoon soap operas. And that's what made him deadly dangerous. Because he wrote down whatever patterns made the most sense to him, whether they're true or not. These become the map by which the brain and the rest of the Frozen Nugget Gang navigated the world. Then there was sweet talking Ray. He was the baby of the family. Ray was complicated. Former preacher, once ran for office down in California, would have won too if all the disgruntled customers of his snake oil dealership hadn't shown up with pitchforks, a bucket of tar, and a bag of feathers. That man could explain the meaning of a thing, whether the meaning existed or not. Smooth voice, confident cadence. The kind of fella who could sell you hope, despair, or both, depending on the night. Ray didn't just talk about what happened. That was Eli's job, after all. Ray talked about what it meant. Even if he didn't know what it meant, he would find something and then make it mean that. If there was one thing Ray hated, it was not having an explanation. Ray could take a cracked frying pan and make you feel like you were holding Excalibur, a cracked sled and make you feel like those broken boards were divinely prepared ahead of time, a cold spring night and make you feel like you're under a death sentence. Sweet Talkin' Ray is your prefrontal cortex, your brain's inner narrator. This is the part of your brain that interprets events, creates meaning, and tells you who you are. Neuroscientist Lisa Feldman Barrett has shown that emotions are not discovered, they're constructed. Your brain takes bodily sensations, context, and language and builds your personal experience. Your prefrontal cortex can take the same racing heartbeat and tell you if you're having a panic attack or if you're pumped up with excitement and motivation. Sweet Talkin' Ray tells your brain how to feel by interpreting your experience. And your brain has got the real bad habit of obeying unless you've done something to keep the autopilot turned off. The really scary thing is that your own Sweet Talkin' Ray, the cerebral cortex, is wired to always produce an explanation, even if it's the dumbest explanation on the planet. It will take incomplete, inaccurate, or grossly unrelated facts and then create an explanation for the things in your life and then treat it like reality until someone can slap that baby upside the head hard enough to get it to stop and listen to reason. So there you have it. The Four Stooges, Screamin' Maggie the alarm system, White Knuckle Wally the drill sergeant muscle of the group, Eli the historian, and Sweet Talkin' Ray the interpreter. And you, stuck with these buffoons and hoping you could make it back to civilization in one piece. There's more to this story, but the last couple of weeks have been like walking barefoot to the outhouse in a January snowstorm, and I am going to have to call it a day. Ironically enough, various factors have kept this outhouse philosopher in the proverbial outhouse a lot more than usual. Please tune in next week for the next installment of this story, where we get to hear about the cautionary tale of the frozen river of Crackly Doom, and maybe even the legend of the bottomless gold claim. Working names, of course. These stories will be fact-checked to ensure that they are scientifically accurate. They will give you a front row seat in seeing how the inner workings of the human brain can either make a man great or make him a fool. That's all for today. Outhouse Philosopher signing off. God bless and Happy New Year.